three-car garage. On the single-car garage was where there was a room built in there, but never went in the house or in the garage. Just could see it from the outside.
You could see that structure in the garage. And again, this structure, an 8x8 wooden box that was custom built for the garage, and apparently is where the adoptive child, one of 4, would be locked in. And yet the lock is on the outside. So if you're on the inside, you can't get out if it's locked from the outside. And inside there, you've got a bed. There's a camera that's watching you up above. You got a little desk, you got a couple books, you got a light, single light, and you've got a bucket. I mean, allegations that he was, or she, was locked in this room for 18 hours at a time, locked in there when not at school. Let me bring back in our guest, Catherine Kokel, journalist from the Palm Beach Post in West Palm Beach, joining us tonight, who knows more about this story than anyone, who is not directly part of the story, obviously. Dr. Judy Ho, clinical psychologist, neuropsychologist, associate professor at Pepperdine. Let me ask you, Dr. Judy Ho, got allegations here, a child is acting out. Child has attempted to run away, but then is locked in an 8x8 wooden structure inside the garage. What sort of impact can that have on a teenager? Being one of 4, you're the one who gets locked in the garage.
Well, Vinny, first of all, we don't know exactly what clinical condition he truly suffers. I don't know if he actually had an evaluation that says he definitely has reactive attachment disorder. But if he does, that's a trauma-related disorder. The only risk factor for that rare disorder is trauma and neglect. So if you're going to lock this teenager in a room 18 hours, not giving him feelings of basic safety, provoking that feeling of having to be in fight or flight all the time, it's clearly going to make those trauma reactions worse. So some of these escalating behaviors that have been reported at school and at the home, that's all going to worsen as a result of this lock treatment. The only kind of treatment that's going to work if an individual has such a disorder is positive parenting that helps to foster safe and protective relationships, not only with the parents, but also with other adults and peers in their life. They also need to receive trauma-focused therapy to work through the traumas they've experienced. And unfortunately, it sounds like the parents contributed to this trauma rather than actually helping the child through it if he did come to their family with earlier trauma experiences before 17 months of age.
And how about the dynamic that there are 3 other children in the home? How does this affect those other 3 children? How would they perceive what's going on inside this home? That there's there's 3 of us were inside, and then one goes to the garage, to this wooden room.
Well, if these other 3 children were relatively spared from actual direct trauma or abuse, there is still the trauma that is a result of watching this happen to one of their siblings. And to meet the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder, it doesn't have to just happen to you. Witnessing somebody that you care about going through trauma is likely going to also provoke such a reaction in some individuals. And I believe that maybe these children also feel unsafe, that perhaps if they behave in a certain way or do something that might be perceived as out of line, that something similar could happen to them. So I believe that these children are most likely going to need some professional resources and therapy to get through what they witnessed.
Now, let me ask you, Catherine, the structure down there in their home in Jupiter was built relatively recently, right? We understand that, but had this child ever, is there any evidence or anything to suggest that when they lived in Arizona or when they previously lived down in South Florida, whether there was a similar type of structure that this child was subjected to being in?
Absolutely. Part of the reporting process of understanding what happened here was calling every single homeowner that's lived in a home that the Ferriters have lived in the last 20 years, actually. And so prior to moving to Arizona, the Ferriters actually lived just a couple streets over from where they live in the same neighborhood. So inside that Egret Landing neighborhood, it's one big loop, and they lived just a couple of blocks from where they bought a home and moved into this year. That home did not have any sort of demolition permits that were assigned to it or any building permits during the time they lived there or in the months after they moved out. However, in an interview with police right after the Ferriters were arrested, the home's new owner, who they bought it in February of 2017, so several years ago now, said that he had a room removed from the garage that matched the description of the room in the Egret Landing home that the Ferriters lived in until they were arrested. His real estate agent allegedly highlighted it in a tour of the home as a bonus room. He bought that home for about $650,000 and had that room demolished. Again, there was no trace of this in the public records. So when I looked at schematic drawings of the home, there was no evidence that this room existed, and they never pulled any demolition permits to have it taken down. So we know that the person who bought that home after the Ferriters lived in it in 2017 said that they had a similar structure. We did not find any public records that showed that they had something similar in their home in Arizona. However, in interviews with the police, the teenager told police that they were locked up frequently in Arizona too. So we know that the demolition permits and the building permits don't always match up in cases like this. The Ferriters did not pull a building permit to construct this room in December, but they did pull a demolition permit to have it removed just a few weeks after they were arrested. So we know that this has existed in at least one of their homes before, and the child has hearkened back to similar experiences when they lived in Arizona.
Dr. Judy Ho, let me ask you, could you potentially see, and we don't know all the facts in the case, obviously, that'll come out, in court, in motions, etc. But could you see anyone in your profession counseling this family and suggesting, hey, listen, maybe a way to punish or a way to protect the other children or protect other members of the household, maybe you should have a little separate secured area for the child?
Absolutely. There are a number of different behavioral management strategies to deal with children who have escalating behavioral problems, even those that have violent behaviors, as has been reported for this particular teenager. And we have evidence-based treatments for this. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It's going to be a process. It's going to be hard. It's going to require hard work from the parents. But this is the biggest and saddest thing about this case, is that the parents did not reach out earlier to get those resources. And I understand that sometimes people are just at a loss for what to do, but it sounds like this has been a long pattern. This is not some idea they just came up with and only have been doing this for 2 or 3 months. It appears that they have been utilizing this as a form of behavioral management for years, when it's actually provoking more trauma in this particular teenager and the children in the family. And so absolutely, getting into professional treatment with a very well-experienced expert in behavioral management strategies, especially for children who have a possibility of having reactive attachment disorder as well as violent behaviors, is key here.
But could you see part of the plan or the treatment by a professional being, hey, listen, maybe you guys should build some secure room in your home and have an area where you can keep the child away from everybody else for a certain amount of time? Would that ever be a part of a plan?
Not a room per se, especially not one with a door that only locks and can be unlocked from the outside. But there are techniques where you utilize a timeout chair, a timeout area where there isn't anything else. You can't just send a child to their room with their video games and TV. It has to be an area where they're not likely to hurt themselves with any objects nearby, where they essentially can sit and actually calm down, learning emotional regulation strategies before they can be brought out to socialize again with the rest of the family. But not a room, not a locked room. That would not be any kind of known evidence-based treatments for somebody who has behavioral difficulties.
Catherine, let me ask you, at any point, was this structure that was in the garage, I've seen online some pictures that purport to be the structure. Does it still exist? Do we know if it's still in the home?
No, it does not. It was demolished on March 5th, and I interviewed the demolition company that took care of that for the Ferriters. They got the call from the Ferriter family on February 20th. Was remarkably quick after they were arrested. They wanted this room to be demolished. I checked with Jupiter Police, and that was not an issue with disturbing a crime scene or anything like that. It had already been processed, but it no longer exists in their home. And just to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Ho is talking about, when I spoke with child psychologists on reactive attachment disorder and realistically how to deal with something like that, especially when you have escalating or potentially violent behaviors, many told me that the tough love, keep them away from other kids in the family, keep them away from their friends, that approach was really outdated. And so physical restraint and reattachment treatments have not shown to help kids with reactive attachment disorder. And so the kind of tough love or isolation therapy that the Ferriters may have been employing here, child psychologists today say that that is not the right way to handle this. So we do know that the room has been taken down, and so the children are also not in the Ferriters' custody anymore. They are in the custody of the state, and they're in the process of being placed with a family member.
Catherine Kolk is going to stay with us. Dr. Judy Ho, I know you have to run. We appreciate your time tonight. Great to hear your insight. When we come back, we've got the statement from the Ferriters' attorney. Received it this afternoon. Trying again to understand that question, the answer to that question. Why? Why would you ever think it's a good idea or appropriate to lock your child in the garage in a wooden structure with a bed, a camera, and a bucket?